Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for inviting us here. Not sure if Tom and I could have gotten into Cambridge, so it's nice to be invited here in some shape or form. Just to tell you a little bit about Whipcar, for those who don't know, we launched Whipcar in April of 2010, and we're the world's first peer-to-peer car rental service. So essentially, when you have a car that you're not using very often, you can rent that out to people in your neighborhood. You can make money from your car when it's not in use, and people in your community have access to a close, convenient a car that they can use anytime. That's the basic premise. It's easy. We've taken a bit of a different tack in our presentation, so we're going to tell you just briefly about the story, what it takes to kind of come up with the idea, what we did pre-launch, and what we assessed in order to decide this is the business we wanted to work with, how we've executed to date, some of the challenges that we faced over the last little bit over a year, how we plan to grow, and then a little insight into what we think the future might look like. And we're going to do all that in less than 10 minutes. I forgot to mention, we've been up and running for just over a year, and we're really pleased to announce, we haven't announced this yet, but we're now the UK's largest car club in terms of cars on offer. So there are now 2,500 cars on the Whipcar fleet that are available to rent in hundreds of towns and cities across the UK. Thank you. So these two lines, one is 130%, and that is the increase in the number of cars over this 10-year period. The other line is the increase in population. So this kind of showcases the increasing excess capacity that exists with cars. The auto industry has suffered from decades of overcapacity, and as you would see, many, if not all of them, need to be bailed out in recent times. So we'll show you another one or two of these slides of market trends that we saw that led us to believe that this might be a good idea. So this is actually a US statistic, but what we found is that the stats in the UK and the US are quite similar. In this 20-year period, there was a 14-point decrease in the percentage of 16-year-olds that got their license when they turned 16. That's a huge shift in a relatively short period of time. And in our parents' generation, and even as recently as 20 years ago, people would love turning 16 in the US and being able to drive and have that freedom. These days, that's changed. People can get some of that freedom through mobile phones and social networking, and increasingly people are choosing accessing services and experiences versus outright owning them. That's a very important trend for a business like ours. And then finally, and there's loads more, but this is the last one we'll share with you for now. The average car in 2009 cost about £5,500 to own and maintain. That's increased to $5,800, just over £5,800 in a year, and so they're going to continue to increase as petrol continues to increase, and insurance as well has gone through a 20% year-on-year increase. So these are all important things to consider for anyone starting their own business as well. It's good to be able to forecast the market size. You saw, I think, in the last slide, there are 29 million passenger cars in the country. There are 36 million registered license holders in the UK. When you're starting your own businesses as well, you should communicate these kind of metrics to the VCs or any investors that you're seeking investment from.
So I guess this is the reality. Having done that initial piece of research, so I guess just to frame the story a little better, we started working together at the beginning of 2009, and we went through swathes of research in lots of interesting verticals where we thought there might be an opportunity. And then we spent a good part of that year putting together the deck, which then enabled us to raise money in October 2009. And then in parallel, we were actually building a product which enabled us to launch this service at the start of 2010. But when you get to that 2010 bit, you press a button and then it goes live and then you kind of see what happens. It's all a bit scary. But this was the reality. So I guess we went from something which conceptually was very neat and seemed like it makes sense, try and kind of anticipate some of the practical hurdles to overcome, and then you launch the thing and you see what happens. So I think this is what happened. We launched in Maida Vale, so a single district of London, and the idea had always been that we'd seed that area and then we'd jump from district to district, which is how car clubs traditionally had grown. What we found was we launched, we had really good PR, and then we were in 400 towns and cities across the UK. So lots of the last year has been kind of playing catch up with the fact that we got very big very quickly. And I guess the expansion of that, we've put down some of the core challenges we came across. So I guess before launching the business and then the reality of when the business was live, lots of the challenges were around things like assurance and insurance. So I guess looking at those two elements, people are nervous about something like their car because it's a really expensive asset. Typically it's someone's second most expensive asset. And yet we often say it's your most expensive latent asset. So it was really important we had a system which could make you comfortable with the nature of people who are choosing to use your vehicle. So without boring you about the whole thing, how the whole thing works, just some basic things we do. We make sure that we screen the nature of the vehicles joining the platform. We screen all drivers who can participate on the platform so that we know their DVLA driving history. And then there's a whole community aspect. So just like something like eBay, in the event that a booking takes place, after every single hire, people feedback on one another. And this insurance piece is key. So talking about that preparatory work, a big scary bit that we had to work through, in order for this thing to stack up, you have to have a bespoke insurance policy. So we created the only insurance policy of its kind in the world, where when I have my car on the platform, if Vynay chooses to book it, at that moment we generate a tailored insurance policy which sits on my car for the duration of hire and covers Vynay for the duration of hire. So if there was any incident, it would be on Whipcar's insurance rather than individual car owners. And we knew that without that product, the business couldn't exist. So we worked with Lloyd's of London over probably a 9-month period to create that product. And again, until we had it, we knew there wasn't really anything we could launch. And I guess this last bit, faith, because we wanted to chuck something in around, ignore the, I guess, intricacies of our business. I think the fundamental learning, I think for both of us is, there's something great about more than one entrepreneur. So if you have two of you, you can take it in turns till you get nervous. So I think all the way along that journey of the last 2 years, there are times where at any given moment, one of you might get wobbly because things get scary. You're not sure if you're going to get a deal done, you're not sure if you're going to scale all the way you've hoped. But having been an entrepreneur in I guess, a previous life on my own, 2 is more than twice as good, if that makes sense. And the acceleration piece, I guess, just building on Vinay's story at the beginning around scale. This is one of our better users. So in the last 8 months, they've made £3,361, which is pretty cool, right? It's quite a lot of money. And I guess our version of this business, where we see this going, I think we've got a slide on the future, we're finding increasingly that people are getting in touch with us and asking us what kind of car they should buy in order to participate. So in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had, I think, 3 different people buy Fiat 500s in order to perform on the platform, which we think is amazing. And something we always hoped that would happen, but we didn't know it would happen quite so quickly.
Last slide, promise. Following on from that thought, we think that in the next 2 or 3 years, when you go and buy a car, you actually are going to buy that car knowing that you're going to rent it out at some point in the future. So everyone who's used our service today, they're an early adopter. They think this might make sense in some shape or form. But as Tom alluded to, people are increasingly saying, hey, I can actually afford the car of my dreams by renting it out a little bit and offsetting some of the payments. Or hey, I might be a micro entrepreneur and I might buy 2 or 3 cars and actually create a little micro car rental service in my neighborhood. So in the future, we're going to have Whipcar-enabled cars right off the assembly line. Telematics and IP-enabled cars are already coming off the assembly line. You have our Whipcar app, software application. Turn on the dashboard. You're greeted by Whipcar. You can see your upcoming bookings. People can leave rental requests from you as they pass your car, either through their NFC phones or through just leaving a sticky shadow for you. You can advertise your car when it's stopped at a brake light, a stoplight, and essentially you can create a car that pays for itself. So that's it. Thank you.